Well, I've been dwelling lately on the topic of humanism, which when I was growing up and even as an adult, I heard was a grave sin until I started reading about it. And it occurred to me that Jesus and many other people I admire were humanists, those who had a high regard for human worth, dignity, and value. There's a man named Paul Kurtz who wrote in the book Free Inquiry these lines: "We offer humanism as a realistic alternative to theologies of despair and ideologies of violence, and as a source of rich personal significance and genuine satisfaction in the service to others." That's very Quakerly, isn't it? Very Quakerly. Whenever Joanne and I go to the farm, we stop by the town deli there in Paoli, the Lost River Deli, and pick up the latest copy of the local newspaper. And we do that to see who has died in our absence. There's nothing more embarrassing than bumping into someone and asking them how their family is, only to be told that the entire family was killed when an asteroid struck their home during Sunday dinner. Boy, talk about an awkward silence. And trust me, that only has to happen once to motivate you to read the weekly newspaper. So we read to see who died, and then my second favorite part of the newspaper is the church page. I love the church page, reading the local church news, which is invariably a roll call of pessimism and gloom. Fundamental passion, Jesus descending on the clouds to wage battle against the ungodly, which includes everyone but them. Now, it's not that these churches are without their virtues. If your house is struck with an asteroid and you need food, they will rise to the occasion. But if you're trying to discern the nature of reality or the essence of humanity, or even want to boost to your morale, you would be well advised to look elsewhere. Several years ago, we were fortunate to have Matthew Fox, the author of Original Blessing, visit us one evening and speak to us right here in our little meeting house from this very pulpit. Formerly a Catholic priest, Matthew Fox was expelled from the Catholic Church for rejecting the doctrine of original sin. Hence the title of his most well-known book, Original Blessing, which sold millions of copies worldwide. The Italian philosopher and psychologist Vito Mancuso wrote the introduction to the Italian language version of Original Blessing and included these words in that introduction. When Jesus was born, the angels did not sing, "You'd better watch out." The angels sang, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to humans whom God favors." Despite that, most of Christianity embraced a theology of gloomy despair, telling us over and over again that we were fallen, full of sin, deserving of and destined for everlasting eternal punishment. The eminent theologian and philosopher George Carlin described this religion to a T when he said, "Religion has convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish, where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever until the end of time. But he loves you." things you should not do. Mindless, unquestioning obedience is everything. Let's talk about that this morning. You'll remember we've been dwelling on the topic of humanism, the affirmation of human worth, dignity, and value. We've mentioned the failure of religion to affirm human worth, dignity, and value, and nowhere is that more evident than in the glacial pace of moral evolution in religion, because religions, by their very nature, because they are a collective effort, a group effort, only evolve as their least moral participant. Religion, we have observed that those people who are the least morally developed too often hold back those who are the most morally developed. I had a fascinating lunch this week with a man who's been my editor for years at the Saturday Evening Post. And unbeknownst to me, he'd grown up here in Indianapolis, and his brother was the head of the Franciscans worldwide, and so had an office in the Vatican and was good friends with the Pope. And he told me a story about his brother and his Pope meeting to discuss their desire to bring women into full equality and leadership in the church, but were unable to do so, knowing that too many cardinals, bishops, and priests would not stand for it. Now think about that. Here is a religious tradition that has the doctrine of papal infallibility, a religion who teaches that the Pope is incapable of error in pronouncing dogma. But even then, the moral evolution of the church is constrained by the least thoughtful, least morally developed people in their faith community. So here's the Pope who has all this power to do this, and still is stifled, still is handcuffed, because of those who refuse to evolve. This is why religions are most often the caboose on the train of moral progress, and not the engine. They cannot begin their journey until everyone else is on board. Hence the Humanist Council, and this is where I think the humanists have something to teach us. The Humanist Council never to give someone else ultimate control of your moral development. Never give someone else ultimate control of your personal moral development. Never place your ethics in the hands of someone less involved than yourself, whether it is a partner, a pastor, or a president. Secondly, humanism asserts, and this is a related point, that even as religions move at a glacial pace on pressing moral issues, they often demand absolute compliance from their participants. They expect to be obeyed and followed. Challenging and questioning are discouraged and sometimes even punished. Now, in this country, we can no longer imprison or kill heretics, but we can and we do impose social penalties on those who challenge dogma. This week, Joanne and I were having supper with a friend and his wife, now Quakers, who belonged to a Missouri Synod Lutheran church when they were first married, where he served as its pastor. It was his first church, and he went there as his pastor. He was young, just starting out, and I asked him, was that a good experience for you, being the pastor of a Missouri Synod Lutheran church? And he said, it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. People were very kind to us. We made a lot of friends. He said, and then stayed one Sunday of expressing doubts about one of the doctrines. I said, what happened? He said, I had to leave. I had to leave. Now, you know, of course, that we Quakers aren't exempt from that. Read our history. It's the nature of religion. We're slow to evolve and consequently fear and even punish those who call us to forge ahead, those who say, come on, it's time we move forward. And I think this is something humanism has to teach us when religion becomes in conversation with other actors in society, one of which, of course, are humanists, that they do have something to teach us, and that is this, that whereas in most religions obedience is expected, in humanism, unquestioned obedience is suspect. If someone tells us we have to believe something, we get a little leery. Now, if you are a counselor, if you're a therapist, you know that skepticism and resistance are healthy responses to any party, person, religion, or government who demands our uncritical allegiance. You know that if you're a counselor, a therapist, or have been in counseling, you have probably learned and probably know that skepticism and resistance are healthy responses to any party, person, religion, or government who demands our uncritical allegiance, who tells us we must believe no matter our doubts, we must obey no matter what. That in that moment, skepticism and resistance are healthy responses. When we have a high regard for human worth, dignity, and value, we realize the importance of the unfettered conscience, the value of standing upright when others demand we bow at the knee. This is one more reason that I believe Jesus was a humanist. In his resolve, in his determination to be a free moral agent, to stand when others would have him bow and scrape, to honor in every moment, in every circumstance, human worth, dignity, and value. Jesus embodied the very best of humanity. It is my hope that we as his followers might also live with such principled courage.